All right, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for December 10th, 2024. We have some scheduled public hearings. I'll read the first one into the record, and if you look at the survey, we get to apply the Pythagorean theorem on this one tonight. The applicant is Stuart Adelsberg and Deborah Cole Adelsberg at 5 Old Two Holes of Water Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-157-1-7.5. The size and location is 29,741 square feet at 5 Old Two Holes of Water Road, Montauk Heights, Section 4, map number 334, East Hampton. The description is to allow an existing approximately 300 square foot deck to remain within minimum rear yard lot line setbacks and generator to remain within minimum scenic easement setbacks. The relief sought are 2 variances are required for this application. One variance of 4.4 feet from 255-1110 of the town code is required to allow the existing decking to remain 10.6 feet from the rear yard lot line, where 15-foot setback is required. One variance of 1.2 feet from 255-1174 of the town code is required to allow the existing generator to remain 8.8 feet from the scenic easement, where 10-foot setback is required, and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is A3 residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavits. Everything appears to be in order and the board has jurisdiction.
All right, thank you. This is in my area, so I did the report. As you can see, the property was properly posted. Looking down the driveway to the residence at hand. And then just looking along Old Two Holes of Water Road, you can see that it's pretty well vegetated back here. Next. So this is looking along the driveway. You can see the generator just in beyond. This is the electrical meter, and then beyond that is a generator. That's a generator. A little closer up look at it. Next. And then swinging over to look at the reserve. And then you see Old Two Holes. No, that's actually 2 Holes of Water Road right there. Next. And then going back into the backyard, this is where the deck is, and you can see the property line there that's also vegetated. And looking along the property line and the deck. And I think that's it. We have the applicant here. Rick, come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Richard Whalen, Whalen filer on behalf of the applicants. The applicants are Stuart Adelsberg and Deborah Cole Adelsberg, and Stuart is here tonight, right behind the pillar. If I could, I just want to hand out, just to make things a little bit easier for you, I'll tell you what. Here.
Thank you.
Actually, the only thing in there that is new is the GIS aerial photograph on the second page, just to give you a sense of the neighborhood. But the survey and the 2 photographs are in the record. I just wanted to, but it would be helpful if you have them right in front of you, because I don't know if you have your whole packet all the time. So as the chairman indicated, it's a triangular piece of property, very constrained because of a scenic easement. I did a little bit of research to see how that came about. The lot in question is only around 29,000 square feet. Less than 8,000 square feet of it are cleared. And as you can see, it's burdened with a 50-foot deep scenic easement on 2 Holes of Water Road. Remember, the property is actually at the intersection of 2 Holes of Water Road and Old Two Holes of Water Road. The scenic easement results kind of bizarrely from an old file map. This property is part of an old file map. Strangely enough, it's one of the more unusual old file maps in the code. There are 5 lots in this urban renewal map, and the other 4 of them are on the other side of 2 Holes of Water Road, and they're between 2.6 and 3.3 acres in size. But the old file maps often require on major town thoroughfares, they require a 50-foot deep scenic easement. So whoever first built on this property, and it wasn't my client, the house has been there since the 1980s, I believe, they were required to grant the town a 50-foot scenic easement. So the scenic easement is undisturbed, it's completely wooded, but it does result in a very, very small area in which you can build. So there are two structures that we're dealing with here. I don't think I should have to spend too much time on the generator. When the generator was installed, it's 1.2 feet closer to the scenic easement than is allowed. There's a 10-foot scenic easement setback. It's 8.8 feet from the scenic easement. The applicant, they were not aware of that, so it got installed. Thankfully, it's not in the scenic easement, but it does require a 1.2 foot scenic easement variance. And as you can see from the chairman's photograph, even now, the area immediately around the generator is basically in its natural state, is all wooded. The other issue is the deck at the back of the property. Now, as you know, I don't have to tell you this, when you're dealing with an existing structure, there's no benefit to the applicant from having had the structure there already. You have to treat it as though the structure hadn't been built yet. The property is so constrained, the rear setback, now, sorry, the side yard setback, this would be the southern property line. The south side of the house is only a little over 21 feet from the adjoining property. The adjoining property is a 1.77 acre parcel. It's vacant. It's owned by a local real estate broker. That deck that we are showing on there that's been built is going to have negligible effect. And that's one reason I did give you the GIS to kind of give you a perspective of how large the adjoining vacant lot is. But the deck in question is now 10.6 feet from the rear property line. It's about 10 foot deep. If you actually had to meet the side yard setback, which is 15 feet because the deck is attached to the house, so you meet the principal building setbacks, the deck could only be about 6 feet deep. So we really do have what in the old days they used to call a practical difficulty. There's almost no outdoor recreational space on the property. The property is dominated by the driveway, the house. There's a little bit of yard to the east of the house. And of course, even there, you have a 10-foot setback from any structures, and you have a Bilco door on the east side of the house. And then, of course, you don't have much room in the front. So the deck naturally was attached to the back of the house and can't meet the 15-foot side yard setback. So, or rear, actually, it would be a rear yard setback. It's opposite 2 Olds of Water Road. So, I think the variance is obviously minor in nature. I do want to supplement what was in the submitted file by just going down very quickly the area variance standards. Will there be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties? Obviously no detriment resulting from the generator. The deck is very small. It encroaches into the required setback by only 4.6 feet. The adjoining property is 1.77 acres. It's vacant. It's fully wooded. Likely nobody is building anywhere near this deck. Can the benefits be obtained without an area variance? Well, as to the generator, obviously it's already been installed. It has a 50-foot deep scenic easement. The generator is 8.8 feet from the scenic easement where the required setback is 10 feet. As I said, there's no disturbance around the generator. It has no impact on the scenic easement, notwithstanding the minor variance that it needs. And as I said, as to the deck, even if it hadn't been built, this would be the only place in the property where you would logically build a deck. It's a very small deck. It's attached to the house. You get out back door of the house and you're on the deck. And without a variance, you literally would only have 6 feet of deck before, while meeting the setbacks. Are the variance substantial? I think not. I don't even think I need to address the generator again. And again, the deck variance is only 4.4 feet for a very small deck where the required setback would be 15 feet. The variance requested is 4.4 feet. Physical or environmental impacts associated with the structure is negligible. And finally, what reasons have led the applicant to the need for variances rather than compliance with the town code? I think I've just hit on that. The generator is at 88% of the required setback, which is a setback from a scenic easement. And again, the deck actually would be, if this was an accessory structure treated with an accessory structure setbacks, the deck actually would meet that setback, which would be 10 feet because it's 10.6 feet from the rear property line. But because it's attached to the house, the required setback becomes 15 feet. So I think that's really all I have to say.
Any questions? I have no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tyler?
Tyler Borsak for the Planning
Hi,
Department.
Tyler, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else much left to add. The only thing to note is, I'm not sure if it was discussed, but that there was a patio on the south side of the residence where the deck is located now, in relatively the same location. It was, I think, 0.2 feet further away from that lot line and slightly smaller. But it's worth noting that there was something there previously that got replaced with something slightly different, but relatively the same idea. Other than that, I can make myself available for questions. I don't think there's really much else that needs to be noted.
Anybody have any
Was
questions?
that patio part of a previously issued C of O?
Yes, it was on the 2020 CO.
Tyler, can I just clarify one sentence in here? I got a little confused. The current decking is slightly wider than the patio and 0.2 feet closer to the southern property line, but remains relatively same size and shape, approximately 180 square feet versus the current 300 square feet. Does that mean former?
180 was what the patio was, and 300 is what the current structure is.
Okay, so I just couldn't tell which was current
Sure,
from the
sorry,
sentences,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
prior. Thank you very much.
The 180 is what it was previously.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Because it says the patio was, that's why.
I have no
yeah.
questions. I have none.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Tyler. All right, therefore I make a motion in the application. Oh, is
You
there?
have 0 callers on the line. Thank you.
Nobody in the public. Therefore, I make a motion in the application of Stuart Adelsberg and Deborah Cole. Adelsberg at 2 Holes of Water Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-157-1-7.1, to close the public hearing and the public record.
Second.
I concur.
Concur.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before you read the next application, I am required to recuse from it, so I'm going to stage left. Thank you.
So our next application is a Shagian Personal Residence Trust at 26 Ocean Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk, tax map number 300-176-3-6. Size and location is 12,111 square feet at 26 Ocean Lane, Hampton Dunes, map number 4694, lot 34 in Amagansett. The description is to allow a retaining wall with fence above, swimming pool coping, entry, porch, and deck, and to relocate existing swimming pool equipment on a parcel of land containing dune land, beach vegetation, and freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the Town Code, variances from 255-430, which is minimum wetland setbacks, and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. Variances of 83.8 feet, 77.7 feet, 50.3 feet are required to allow the retaining wall and fence, the swimming pool coping, and the entry, deck, and porch to remain 16.2 feet, 22.3 feet, and 49.7 feet respectively from wetlands, and a 76.1-foot variance is required to relocate the pool equipment 22.9 feet from the wetlands, all where a 100-foot setback is required. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and X flood zones in the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit. Everything appears to be in order and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you. And Member Berger is
Yeah.
stepping in for Member Mary.
Okay, I'm standing in front of the house and the parking area, and see it was properly posted. I had another shot a little bit closer. See the retaining wall here, and then that runs from, this is the west side, across to the east side on the north, to the left portion of it. Next. This is just a closer view of the decking in the front. And next. I stepped up on that, and you can see the pool area, you can see the pool coping, the turf grass that was planted here, and all of which is in question on some of the application, and the patio in the back. Next. It's a lot of irrigation heads and throughout this whole property, we know that there's an issue with that, so like the applicant to address what all this irrigation is for. Aside, it was brought up in the tab about the turf lawn and stuff. Next. This is a walkway that was put in. No question on that. Next. This is the area, it's across from the pool. It was turned into that the deck and porch area that you see on the survey. Next. And this is the pool equipment which exists today and is proposed, as you see on the survey, to be moved slightly over. And next, another sprinkler head in that somewhere. Next, and this is a portion of the deck of the dune rather, as you go from the north to the south in the back of the property is very lovely dune vegetation, and there are some black pines mixed in there, but mostly dune. And I think the next shot shows a little bit better shot of the dune that exists today. And next, I think there's another. Oh yeah, this is the fence that's in question on the right side. It was very hard to see. This is the portion that's at the 4-foot high fence and has, you can see the vinyl, the green vinyl coated. And this is, I was standing at the front of the portion, the northwest side of the fence, but it does run all the way across to the northeast side of the property. So, and I think that's it.
Thank you. We have the agent here. How are you, Britton?
Good evening.
Hi. Announce yourself.
I'm Britton Bistrian.
Do you swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Not as tall as Rick. Good evening, Chairman Deline and members of the board. I'm Britton Bistrian, representing Tanaz Beach LLC, which is the successor actually to the, I always pronounce it wrong, Ashagian Personal Residence Trust, owner of 26 Ocean Lane in the Beach Hampton section of Amagansett. The parcel is sited, as you can see here, on the east side of Ocean Lane, 2 parcels south of its intersection with Central Avenue. The property was part of a large 1966 subdivision which created most of this area of Beach Hampton, and this house was constructed shortly thereafter in 1969. The pool was added under a zoning board decision in 2001, and the last CO in 2002 was the result of that construction. My client, Tanaz Ashagian, purchased the property in 2017. The first thing that they did was to file a building permit for interior renovations. It was a very dated house, and they understood that they could only do interior renovations without undertaking a zoning board application. So they hired a contractor to perform this work. They lived in the city. They trusted this contractor to execute the project according to the specifications and the project documents that were submitted for the building permit. When the owners came out and tried to obtain a CO in the renovation, they were informed by the building inspector that work was performed outside on decks, fencing, and walls that were in the jurisdiction of natural resources, and they'd have to seek a permit from this board to obtain that CO. There was a bit of an issue, obviously, with the contractor, between the contractor and the owner, for disregarding the permitting and then abandoning the job. The client then reached out to me and asked me for assistance in obtaining a CO. I informed her that unfortunately that this would be a very lengthy process. And then she filed a complaint with the licensing review board on the contractor because she felt that she had sort of been taken advantage of. She was only informed by the licensing review board that the contractor was licensed when he had submitted the building permit application, but was unlicensed the last time that he worked on the property. And so the board couldn't take on that complaint. So she had no recourse. I filed the application with the ZBA in November of 2022. 8 months later, we received a letter from the planning department asking for details on the retaining wall and a clearing note update on the survey. In April of 2024, we received a complete letter, and 8 months later, we are here tonight. The only reason I note that timeline is because it's really critical to the narrative of this application. After COVID, the owners had, job life changes like we all did and wanted to sell their house in Amagansett. But because they had that open building permit for the interior renovation and these accessory structures that were awaiting NRSP variances, they went into contract twice on the property and both buyers walked as they didn't understand the ZBA process was not streamlined and they couldn't identify a date in which they could provide a CO. Could be 18 months, or in this case, it was November of 2022. So we're 2+ years into this application for these items and not permission to build anything. So I'm here tonight asking the board to approve a laundry list of small items, a porch roof less than 15 square feet that just provides a little cover when you're standing at the doorway to get in, a retaining wall that was required for the installation of the IA septic system. This was one of those quirky building permits where the IA septic system was a condition of getting a CO. We don't do these anymore, but this was one of them. A pool fence that's required by life safety code. They have young children, and when they purchased this house, there was no pool fence installed, so they quickly put one up. And the pool equipment, I want to note the pool equipment is a little quirky. It has a CO in the location that it's in, but I figured this was an opportunity to make it more conforming to zoning, to relocate to a place where it met those setbacks. So if the board chooses to keep the pool equipment where it is, it's going to cost us less money. I was just trying to provide some improvement here because it's a little difficult. So the owners had pretty rough ride, an expensive road. They hired a licensed contractor who exceeded his scope of work, let his license lapse. They tried to sell the house. They couldn't provide a timeline for getting a resolution for any buyer. They've had to pay $2,000 a year to renew that open building permit for the last 3 years. So we're really here seeking approval for the necessary minor exterior structures that are all constructed. There is nothing proposed with this application unless we move the pool equipment as proposed to obtain a CO and sort of close this chapter. As for the items that Brian noted in the TAM, I did look into the retaining wall issues, and one is solely for the septic system, and the other one is for the pool. I couldn't find areas in which fill was added, so I don't know if there's any removals to be had in that vein. And then the grass around the pool, as you can see from the photos, there's about 3 to 5 feet on 3 of the sides of the pool. It's a tough area to say it's a good place to put sand inside a small pool enclosure. It's just going to get in the pool. I don't know, a pervious material of slate or decking, I think that's going to be more detrimental. Is AstroTurf better? Does it have a plastic coefficient? I mean, I'm open to suggestions, but in terms of the logistics of having kids run around a pool and hopping in and out of a pool, I don't think sand and beach grass is the best location for this very small area. I don't believe there was other comments. Obviously, there's already an IA septic system. There's already leaders and gutters and dry wells. Pretty good drainage on the site. I don't know what other mitigation we have to offer. Oh, there was a discussion about the fencing. She didn't even really know it was there. As Member Berger noted, it's very deep and kind of covered. We'd be happy to remove all the fencing that runs to the north and the east of the pool, if that's of any value. Otherwise, I'm here to answer any questions the board has.
Where is the septic system? Isn't it on the south side?
It's on the bottom left corner, so southwest. Thank you, Brian.
Yes, so the wood retaining wall to the north of the pool, how is that relevant to the?
That's relevant only to the pool. That was part of the pool construction.
The pool that had been approved?
The pool
That retaining
got an
wall was
approval,
not part of that.
and a CO in 2002.
So the pool and the elevation at the pool it was a retaining wall part of that CBO?
It's my understanding that it is, yes.
I didn't think that was.
So the retaining wall and the pool approval were together? It was part of the same application?
Yes, it was 2002, so they didn't call that out specifically, but the pool is the same pool that was there in 2002, and yeah, if you want to.
I don't see a retaining wall on the survey from when the pool was originally put in. And actually the pool equipment ended up in a different location than was approved by the zoning board.
Right, and got a CO for that location. I can't explain that.
Is that a final survey or is that a building permit application survey?
That's the final with the 2002 CO.
Yes.
So based on the steps on the east and south side, it looks like that pool was elevated. But I'm not sure. It looks a little bit different.
A lot different to me. There's no wall going across at all on the north side.
Well, we don't have the building department comment on this, but if you were going to elevate a pool, you'd have to have a wall. So whether or not that was part of the original application, you're right, we don't know that, but you would not build this pool without the wall. One of my questions was, following this timeline of a contractor abandons the job, is that how you would put it?
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to finish it with another contractor?
Correct.
So at the point that he leaves, there may have been a mistake in terms of location or in terms of technique, and then someone else just finished up following his lead? Is that what happened?
Somebody finished up the interior, the work was under the interior permit. It wasn't until the owner,
Okay, so
Called in a
relative to the pool, what
Right.
we're discussing.
oh, the pool was in the old CO. No work was done on the pool as part of that construction.
Okay, so that pool was there, part of the old CO?
Correct.
Including the fence that's now exists there? There's a teak fence that runs on the, what is that, the north side?
No, the fencing was put in by the client because there was no pool fence. They purchased the property without an updated CO.
Said that, there
Yeah.
was no pool fences. So that
No pool fence. They
is-
put the pool fence in.
And that fence today is acting as pool enclosure?
Correct. It's just, it's circumferentially around the pool.
And
But
the
it's heavily vegetated. I mean, you can't even hardly see it.
You can see it from the street
One
a
side
little
from the
bit,
Street side?
but there's definitely, it's eye level to the top of the fence when you're standing on the street. Or at least my eye level.
But the coping was also part of the C of O for this?
There was a coping on the pool. It looks like to me, it was a 12-inch coping and now it's an 18-inch coping. So the 6-inch differential is what changed.
All right.
And the determination going back for when the pool was approved by the ZBA also said no turf, no turf or grass.
Establishment of turf or lawn.
Should be.
Yeah, I mean, typically when we have these
And
applications.
This ended up getting all this grass and I don't know why it's squishy, the property. It seems like something was manipulated on the property.
And I was going to say, typically what we do is we try to make sure in an application like this that the duneland character is maintained. The dune, undulating dunes and stuff like that. And I don't know what happened in 2020, what year did you say? 22?
Yeah, there's definitely a lapse in the narrative from 2002 when they got their CO to 2017 when this owner purchased without an updated CO. Things happened on the property, so she can only give me the narrative of what happened since 2017. So there is a gap there that I don't have good answers for because nothing was filed at the town and the owner is not the current owner, the owner at that time.
So Britain and TAM, the planning department is recommending removal of any topsoil above the native duneland soils because of the proximity to the wetlands. How do you feel about that?
I guess I would, if Brian could elaborate on where you think that is, the topsoil.
Well,
I can when I'm up there.
Okay.
You want me to show you some photos now from here?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because are we going to remove topsoil around a pool? The finished height of the pool is there. So I'm just,
well, the pool equipment also, I know it's there already and it did get a C of O, but now that you're looking to move it slightly and it requires the closure, it seems like that's not the minimum variance necessary for that.
Let's address this.
yeah, let me step aside and let Brian speak.
Yeah.
Brian,
Brian Frank from the Planning Department.
you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go back to the station and kind of use the mouse to kind of point things out on the screen instead of walking up and using the stylus. So as Britton had mentioned, this is a Beach Hampton property, and you could tell that Rick left the room because he's not correcting either of us. So, this is in the Hampton Dunes subdivision, but this is the area that's colloquially known as Beach Hampton, which generally extends from Mako Lane to the west to at least as far as Napeag Lane to the east. It involves a couple of different subdivision maps, but the area is just anecdotally called Beach Hampton. This lot size is not unusual. A 12,000 square foot lot is not unusual for a lot in this area. And as Britton had mentioned, many of these properties were initially developed in the 60s, the 70s, certainly prior to modern wetland definitions or the natural resource special permit regulations of 1984. The swimming pool on this property was built pursuant to a natural resources special permit that was issued in 1999. At that time, a lot inspection that had, had preceded that application did not identify any wetlands in the northern property or to the north of this property at all. It did note an area of poor drainage that didn't fully meet the technical criteria of a wetland. And you have heard a lot over the years, anecdotally, from members of the public, from applicants, how in general the flooding in Beach Hampton has worsened over the years. There's a variety of factors that contribute to that throughout the area. Based on my observation, they involve the filling in of low areas, the establishment of irrigation, landscaping, sometimes even necessary and legally permitted items like sanitary retaining walls, which are necessary to get new sanitary systems to meet an adequate groundwater separation. Water is going to seek the path of least resistance. So when water is unable to go to areas where it has been going over time, it's going to find the new lows and settle there. The wetlands that you see on the survey now contain, fairly conspicuous amounts of standing water throughout significant portions of the growing season. I wouldn't quite say year round, but I do think that there is a demonstrable difference in the extent of wetness in the hydro period that has occurred in this area. I'm not necessarily attributing that to the swimming pool per se. Again, the swimming pool was the subject of a natural resources special permit that was designed to meet a separation of groundwater at the time, but things do change over time. There are 2 certificate of occupancies that were issued for the property. They're both a little unusual. The 1999 certificate of occupancy has a label that has the proposed pool on it. It's not that common that you see proposed structures on the survey that accompanies a CO. It's usually only the existing structure. I did kind of notice the 2002 certificate of occupancy. The pool equipment is 20 feet from the northern and eastern property line. The exclosure around it is not, and whether that was the policy of the building department at the time, I can't say. The pool equipment on paper was approved in this northwest corner of the property. I think it's pretty apparent in being there. This retaining wall is relatively new. It doesn't appear to be structural. I do want to show you something from another aerial photo of the property. This is the property in 2010. You can see the swimming pool is there and the coping around it. There is more duneland character associated with the property. This is closer to what what was approved by the zoning board. So I can appreciate Britton's concern about the practicality of not having deck or patio around the swimming pool, but this is what was applied for, more or less, and this is what was granted. In 2023, the retaining wall was pretty conspicuous. The photo that I showed you before, which I'll bring back, is not in your file now. It's taken from the northeast corner of the property facing west, and it's not easy to get in this area in street clothes, and that's why I was doing field work last Thursday and made it a point to get back in there preceding this hearing just to get some better photos of this area. And you can see there's about a 2-foot change in elevation. I didn't tape measure it, but even with a naked eye, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm happy to put these photos in the record. This is about an 18-inch, a 2-foot grade change. It's my opinion that this property sloped down to the north naturally, and the retaining wall was added so that the topsoil could be added to kind of level off the area around the swimming pool. And even you can see where these are the duneland soils. This is not obviously a heavily engineered or engineered at all retaining wall. It's not going to last. It's going to decay over time. It's going to need to be replaced if if it is authorized by this permit. Again, you can see that it's starting to fail now. Placing fill in proximity to wetlands should be avoided unless there's a compelling reason to do that. And that's one of the reasons that the planning department feels that the relief for this structure is a poor candidate. I'd respectfully offer of it as a negligible impact on the wetlands. It's contained around the swimming pool. The planning department doesn't have an objection to that, nor does it have an objection to the other appurtenances that are located between the swimming pool and the north side of the house, the front porch, the walkway. I'll go back to the survey if that's an easier reference while we're having this discussion. But I do think it's pretty hard to reconcile the unauthorized placement of fill in proximity to wetlands that are pretty wet, maybe getting wetter, especially when there was a natural resources special permit that authorized the presence of this. This structure, and specifically, limited prohibited the establishment of turf lawn or sod. So I think these structures are pretty benign relative to the wetlands or the dune land. I think the fence around the swimming pool is also fairly innocuous. I think if the swimming pool were, the pool equipment is to be relocated, it should be located farther south. Maybe it doesn't have to be in the exact same spot that it was authorized in the 99 approval, but it could meet a better wetland setback than what's being offered. That fill should be removed down to the duneland soils, and it should be planted with something that doesn't require irrigation. Irrigation is clearly something that, a lawn on sand requires a decent amount of irrigation. I think that's fairly common sense. And in a flood-prone area, when that can be avoided, especially when it's a matter of being consistent with the board's practices of trying to retain what's left of the duneland character of the property, I think, again, it's a weak candidate for relief. Beyond that, if the board members have any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to try.
So it appears as if I'm right or wrong, the difficulty here, is the increased wetlands. Is that right?
That's part of it. There are two natural features in jurisdiction of this
character as well.
Right.
And would that have been the reasoning behind the retaining wall?
That's my speculation. You could see the grade change in that, from this northeast corner facing west. There's a pretty conspicuous elevation change from the outside of the retaining wall to the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'll get those in your file first thing tomorrow if you want.
Let's just go back to how this was constructed for a minute. That the retaining wall was constructed at the same time as the pool was installed?
It doesn't seem that way.
What would have been the configuration if this pool is a couple of feet out of grade the native natural grade we could see was, like you say, 18 or 24 inches different. So that pool at that point sat above grade at 2 foot above grade, and that was a pre-approved location and elevation for the pool?
I can only speculate, I can only go by the records that we have. Again, this is the swimming pool in 2010.
Yeah.
The retaining wall does not appear to be there. It almost definitely wasn't there. There wasn't much clearing. Was there a step up to the swimming pool? That's possible to meet that 2 foot separation of groundwater. You saw the steps on the approved plan that the chairman pointed out. That might have been the case.
As far as the rest of the site, because it's got an impressive dunescape to the south and east, that looks, to me, when I'm walking the property, it looks relatively undisturbed. It looks relatively natural. I know there's some black pines that were probably added by someone a good long time ago, and they're pretty sizable. But other than that, it doesn't look to me as if it's been recontoured. Is that your impression of it as well?
Yeah, the topography that you see on the aerial here, this comes from around 2006 or 2007. So the relief that you see on the property is consistent with these elevations. The vegetation in the southern portion of the property, maybe there are some tree species that have gotten bigger over the years, and that's the biggest difference that you see on the aerial. But the disturbance in the south and the southeast portion of the property is minimal.
The pitch pine are moving out. Pitch pine, most of them now that I saw yesterday, a good number of them are just, diseased and going to go, the ones that are there. So, and then the other thing is that the AI system is the leaching field soils are on the south. See from the drawing when you go to the site.
Yes.
It all seems to have been done within character of the land. I just wanted to get a feeling for the overall feeling of what's gone on in the property. So it's really, I know it's what we have in front of us is the pool. The rest of the property seems to have been maintained its original character more or less.
I think that's accurate.
That's fair. Okay. But still, that pool, the earlier photo you showed us, without the coping and without the wall, must have existed somehow without fill on the north side of the pool. Because that's what the wall would be for. When you're out there, it's pretty obvious you put the wall around so you can bring the fill up and have a little platform around.
I mean, that retaining wall is actually part of the coping variance. That's what it seems like. Where's the retaining wall that is the variance? That's over by the driveway, is it not?
No, it was, this is the retaining wall. I believe the retaining wall on around the driveway has been there for a long time in one form or another. I think that was more, I don't recall if it was on the earlier surveys. It's easy enough to check, but scrolling through the aerials over the years, this area seems relatively unchanged. This has been the parking area. There's obviously a change of grade here. So the retaining wall that requires the variance is the one that runs parallel to the north side of the swimming pool.
Well, the determination for the pool prohibits the establishment of turf, sod, and lawn, but it also recommended the revegetation of disturbed areas during construction to be with Cape American beach grass. Staggered rows, 18-inch centers. So that might be something Britain might want to address or see if that's something she'd be willing to mitigate with.
Okay,
I'm good.
any other questions, board members?
So, good discussion. As I stated, our intent is to get a CO, so I'm just trying to think about how to offer a condition that would allow us to move forward to that. And I think what I'm hearing is remove the retaining wall variance, regrade that back to the 2002 topo, and keep the fence in the same location.
Well, how do you feel about his recommendation to move the pool equipment further south to meet? I mean, I'm just.
Honestly, I mean, it's, as Brian noted, that's like such a difficult area to get into. The reality is that moving that pool equipment is going to be a lot more invasive than
Right.
the actual benefit of it. I would almost rather say, let us remove the retaining wall and the fill and focus on that area and leave the pool equipment where it is. Let us put an enclosure around it to meet code. Putting it by the front door, you enter the house, the main entrance to this house is on the north side where it says porch adjacent to the pool. Putting pool equipment next to the front door is,
Yeah.
if we put it there, the reality is this house is going to sell and someone's going to put it somewhere else because no one wants to walk into their house next to pool equipment. And
Go into
it's
the
also like a safety, you know, you have a pool heater. I wouldn't want a pool heater pushed up against my house. So I guess that would be what I would propose, is to say, as conditions of approval, remove all the fencing on the north and east, remove the retaining wall, the fill under maybe Brian's supervision,
And revegetate with cape.
and revegetate with,
Which
beach
was
grass.
part of the original condition of approval for the pool. You would be fine, you would be okay with that, Britton?
I think so. I just have to think about how you get in and out of the pool. You wouldn't want it on all sides. Could I leave that as a workout with the planning department,
Absolutely.
working out a plan around the sides of the pool, just because I'd like to have my clients' input on.
If I could offer, it appears if you review the natural resources special permit, there was decking approved on the east
On the east
and
side.
maybe a little bit of the south side of the property that was never constructed. I think if the pool equipment were going to get moved, the area that's already disturbed by the topsoil is not an unreasonable candidate. Whether it gets moved or not, that's really a board decision. But I do think that any other additional changes to the property between the swimming pool and the house are obviously better candidates for wetlands in the northern portion of the property, and a better candidate to say that the minimum variance necessary and this area, again, you'll see if you go back to that 99 permit, there was decking in this area that was never constructed, and that there might be stuff between the pool and
Between the pool and the
that's-
house all had decking as well, that was never constructed. I think it's safe to say that Brian and I can work something out. Just thinking on my feet, remove the retaining wall, remove the fill, and vegetate the whole north side from the street all the way back with that beach grass. And then maybe just leave because between on the west side, it's not going to do anything. It's basically a couple feet before you get into the driveway. So,
Right.
and the east side would give you a little outdoor area, and between the house is not. So I think if we take out the fill and revegetate that north side, which would give us a buffer to that wetland, it might meet everyone's needs. So if you could just consider that in your
What about the
determination.
irrigation? There was irrigation all over that section. There was others.
What I saw looked to be defunct. I think if we're going to put in beach grass, we're not going to need that irrigation. I know the decision didn't specifically prohibit it, but I don't think decisions in 2002 did.
I mean, that's something we can condition,
Yeah,
like no
let's work-
irrigation in dune land.
Right.
I do want to just offer, I think this area, because the wetlands are right here, if you're going to remove this fill, you probably want wooden snow fence because of its rigidity with the wire reinforced silt mesh in front of it to help make sure that this stuff stays out of the wetlands. Just
During construction.
Yeah, during its
Okay.
removal.
Yeah.
Okay,
That seems reasonable. Thank you.
great, thank you.
Public?
Everybody in the public like to address this application? Matt, is there anybody on the phone?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
So leaving the record open?
No, there's no reason we're leaving the record
I
open.
believe there was a letter of support from the neighbor directly to the south as
There
well.
was.
The board should have gotten late this afternoon. No,
saw
there's
it
no
late
reason to
this
leave the record
afternoon.
open.
Full support.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the Ashagian Personal Residence Trust at 26 Ocean Lane in Amagansett, tax map 300-176-0306. Make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Second it?
I concur.
I concur. Thank you.
Next, oh, our next application is Jason and Ashley Libat at 15 Bay Inlet Road in Springs, subject tax map number 300-23-2-9. Size and location is 29,000 square feet at 15 Bay Inlet Road, Lionhead Beach, lot 36, map number 3451 in Springs. The description is to construct a 54 square foot first floor addition, 597 square foot second floor addition, 84 square foot balcony, 48 square foot first floor covered porch, 100 square foot second floor covered porch, a 200 square foot swimming pool, pool equipment, pool fencing, and an upgrade sanitary system to convert the existing 533 square foot garage to living space and to allow an existing 447 square foot stone patio to remain within jurisdiction and setbacks of tidal wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 3 variances are required for this application. 3 variances of 43.7 feet, 32.4 feet, 12 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed balcony 56.3 feet, additions 67.6 feet, and porches 88 feet from tidal wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit. Everything appears to be in order and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you. And this is in the vice chair's neighborhood.
Thank you. As you can see, the property was properly posted. This parcel is located within a harbor protection overlay district contiguous with the waters of Hog Creek. What we're looking at now is, because this is waterfront, it actually would be the rear of the property, but the garage that you're looking at is actually proposed to become habitable space. And this area on the west side is also where in a new submission by Tara Burke, they've actually moved the swimming pool closer to the house and relocated the septic closer to the property line at 168 feet from the wetland. So for reference, we're looking at the survey dated November 17th, 2024. I believe Tara will confirm that that kind of confirms the changes that were made. Next, please. I'm walking now on the north side of the property. I kind of took this photo to indicate that this is a very steep property from Bay Inlet Road down to the water. The elevation of the land is steep. So next, please. Just the outside units that are there. And also on this side, on the north side, there's going to be a 48 square foot covered porch proposed on the north side and a proposed second story deck covered porch on the north side as well. Next, please. Now we're in the rear of the property. I was just trying to give them a visual of the whole property. I think I have a better picture of the, yeah. Okay, so looking at this one, you can note that there's going to be additions to the residence, 54-foot square foot first floor addition, not on this side, actually on the landward side, on the north side. And then there'll be a 597 square foot second story addition on the existing western first story. I want to just talk about okay, next, please. This is just a view. I wanted you to see how close they are to the waterway. Next, please. This is leading up to an existing patio on the southern side, which they want to remain. I believe there's an existing shower, I think, on the property that's going to be removed. Next, please. I took this view, I probably should have taken a better picture, but in this driveway, when you're looking toward where the garage is where they're going to be putting the septic system and the swimming pool. Next, please. I think that might be it. Oh, and this is the existing patio on the southern side that they would like to remain. Next, please. I think that might be it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, how are you?
Sorry, Tara, to interrupt. I just want to, LTV, can you check our second TV? It looks like it's frozen on the survey from the last application. I think that the public is seeing the right thing.
You have a, like a blue outlined survey on the screen right now.
Yeah. Okay, so the second TV, Tyler, that's just us?
Yeah, it's just on our end. I don't know.
Sorry, I can just tell that they're looking at something.
Hi, Tara, how are you?
Good evening, Tara Burke from White House Land Planning.
Tara, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for hearing us tonight. As was noted before, the project requires several variances and to construct the proposed balcony, additions, and porches. There's an addition to the residence, which is a 54 square foot enclosed first floor addition on the north side of the residence where there's an existing porch. We're proposing a new gross floor area, which is the second story of 597 square foot second story over the landward portion of the residence. And then there are several small balconies, a covered porch, and a 100 square foot second floor porch. Then the patio, portions of the patio are proposed to remain, which I'll go over. A 200 square foot swimming pool and the pool equipment, and then an upgrade to the sanitary system. The subject property is improved with a 2-story residence with decking, patio, associated structures, and it's situated adjacent to Hog Creek. The most recent CO on file was the 1967 CO for a 1,064 square foot 1-story, 1-family residence, having 1 kitchen and 600 square foot 2-car garage. And the proposed improvements are all shown on the survey that's up for you now. So given the existing residence is the original 1967 home, it's in need of maintenance. And the house is 57.7 feet from the edge of wetlands. So locating any improvements outside jurisdiction was impossible. We really put a lot of care into coming up with, since they have to renovate the existing house, how do we go about making this something that will work for them as a family and still protect the environmental sensitivity of the parcel. The homeowners, Jay and Ashley Liebath, are here with me now. They're local residents, born and raised. They are actually renting out the house right now and downsized so that they could save some money to afford this renovation. So we apologize if anything on site doesn't look sightly at the moment. When I was there about a year ago, they are impeccable property owners. So just wanted to let you know that. Tyler did a great job with the TAM, I thought. And he did point out a couple of things that I think are worth discussing and considering. The first being, he pointed out that the sanitary system was originally proposed next to the house with the pool behind it. So this is the newer one that I submitted, which has it flip-flopped. We did that with the initial one. The sanitary system was 135.8 feet from the wetlands, and the swimming pool was 149 feet from the wetlands. Our intention with that layout was we were really trying to keep the swimming pool out of natural resource special permit jurisdiction, so it was only 1 foot in. We couldn't make it any narrower because it's 10 feet wide as is, and it really becomes unsafe, especially with children, if it becomes any narrower. They try to jump across it and it just never turns out well. So that's why we figured, since we can't get the septic out of jurisdiction, let's at least try to get the pool as far as possible. But Tyler made a really good point in the technical analysis memo about the sanitary effluent and the maximum separation and the sensitivity of Hog Creek, which we discussed, we fully understand. So we had the surveyor scramble and the engineer scramble to redo the sanitary plan and the pool plan, both of which I submitted last week. And this is the survey. We submitted the the sanitary plan to go along with it, where we flip-flop the two. So now the septic is 168.8 feet from the wetlands, as opposed to the 135.8 from before. So we were able to get that 35 feet further from the wetlands, which I think is pretty significant. The pool does get a tiny bit closer at 136.5. But overall, I think this layout actually works better. So we appreciated Tyler's comments on that. And we'd like to offer this layout as an alternative. Hopefully that addresses some of the concerns that the planning department had. Another concern that the planning department had, which you can sort of see on here, so the second story is this proposed line here, this pink line, that this line here, the gray line, and then the 100-foot setback is here, right? So it's just a small portion of the second story that's in variance jurisdiction. And that actually is a covered balcony. So this is a closet that's in the variance jurisdiction. It's 88 feet. But this is the structure that Tyler had mentioned, the proposed balcony here on the front. That's actually seaward of the existing residence. It's the only thing proposed seaward. Everything else is proposed landward. We put a lot of thought into all of that, including this seaward balcony that is 3 feet wide by 24 feet long. So it's 72 square feet. It's on the second story, so it's cantilevered over the first floor. It's not sitting on the ground. It doesn't increase the footprint of the residence. It won't contribute to runoff. It really changes the living space. This way they can have sliders, maybe stand out. I think even on the architect's renderings on the cover page, it has the balcony, and it's so small that there's a person standing there, so it's literally just so that they can get some open air through the house. It just changes the whole feel. It's something that they really wanted. Now, I do understand the planning department's concern. Anytime you put something seaward, you're concerned this is going to turn into habitable space. I think that's a really valid concern. We are more than happy to covenant that that balcony will never become habitable space. That is, strictly stays as a balcony. That's it. Hopefully that addresses that concern. Now, the technical analysis memo also noted that we were doing additional clearing of 206 square feet. We're currently within the allowable limits. The maximum is 10,000 of what you're allowed, subject to the NRSIP regulations. That 206 additional square feet brought us up to 9,998. So we were like just under the 10,000. We went back and took Tyler's comments about adding a vegetated buffer to the wetland, and we propose on the new survey 470 square feet of revegetation. And it's a little busy because there's so many distance lines, but it's this hatched area here. So this is the area that is closest to the wetlands, right? This is the point of the house that's closest. So we took this chunk of lawn in front, and we're happy to revegetate that to increase the vegetated buffer to the wetlands. That will protect the environmental conditions significantly, I think. And now that's bringing our clearing down below what's existing. So then that kind of takes me to my next point. There's a lawn in the front, right? And it's this strip right here. It's 22 feet wide. That's their only usable space seaward of the residence. They have children. It's really nice to have a lawn. They sit out there. They really don't want to lose the lawn. So that's why we did that 470 square foot vegetated buffer on the side there. We were thinking, how do we mitigate this additionally? And I know Tyler had said in the TAM that, vegetated buffer might be enough in lieu of a scenic easement, but we were thinking providing a scenic easement over the wetland would provide that protection in perpetuity in addition to that small vegetated area. This way they could keep that small lawn area.
Where would that scenic easement be? To the limits of clearing?
We had proposed it over the wetlands, but, we're open to.
When you say over the wetlands, to what extent though? From where to where?
The line is here, right?
Okay, but we're also concerned about the buffer and preserving the buffer.
We're happy to add to buffer. That's something we discussed, and we're happy to do that. If you wanted up to the edge of clearing, that would protect This way, you have a 10-foot setback automatically off of a scenic easement, right? So that protects even more. We would just like the allowance for that 4-foot wide footpath to access the water. That's pretty much it as far as like some of the main points that Tyler mentioned in the memo. I just wanted to note, only because it was brought up in the photos, that the stone patio on the side, we're actually removing a significant portion of it. It didn't meet setbacks, so they're going to pull that stone patio back. I think there's like a pizza oven over here. That's all going. It would be proposed to meet the setbacks. The outdoor shower's there. They're removing.
And they're removing that.
No pizza oven?
I know.
Take the pizza oven.
Get a portable one and put it on the table.
Might be a condition of approval.
So
your clearing number now comes down to like 9,300?
So now it comes down
That's on the surveys,
to 9,322.
Which you said is below what is currently cleared.
Yeah, that's correct.
And
Yep.
your total coverage is being reduced
Oh, yeah,
as
so
well.
thank you. I was going to get to that in the variance standards, but yes, so building coverage is staying the same and total lot coverage is actually decreasing as a result of the project.
Tara, can I just clarify something on the stone patio? Thank you for addressing all the other issues so far. What we're seeing on the survey is already the pulled back.
So the dotted line
Yep.
is where it ends currently.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was hard to see. I see, okay.
It's like
Yeah.
right there. It's being pulled back to the hard line.
Okay. Yeah. I'll let you finish, but I have one more question on this patio, but keep going.
So as far as the variance standards go, I'll just go through, I mean, I submitted it in writing, but I'll go through it quickly. Does it create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties? You know, we looked at the whole neighborhood. We believe the improvements are in line with the surrounding residences. The scale and mass are comparable. The proposed improvements are in disturbed areas. The existing structures aren't getting closer to the wetlands, with the exception of the balcony that we'll happy to covenant. Can the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some other feasible method? There's no other location feasible. The second story was carefully designed to be predominantly outside variance jurisdiction, with the exception of that small portion, which is predominantly the covered space. And just so you know how much thought we put into it, we tried so many different layouts, and the problem is the staircase. We couldn't get a staircase to the upstairs without getting it. That was like the smallest we could get it. So just because we didn't want to have to redo the whole interior layout on the first floor. So, is the requested variance substantial? The second floor deck over the existing first floor residence, it's the smallest portion that is closest in variance jurisdiction at 88 feet. The balcony is cantilevered. As I said, we'd be happy to covenant that. The small first floor addition is landward of the existing residence, and it's over a covered improved entryway. There's no change in lot coverage proposed, and total lot coverage will be decreasing. And as Tyler noted in the TAM, with the included upgrade to the sanitary system, the proposed additions appear to be adequately mitigated. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse impact or effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Again, total lot coverage is decreasing, building coverage is staying the same. The sanitary system is being upgraded to a low nitrogen system. We're willing to establish the scenic easement as discussed. We're willing to covenant. There's no further expansion of the residence into that 3-foot wide balcony. And I would just also like to note that the existing septic system is the original one that was installed in the 1960s. It's likely leaching directly into the waters of Hop Creek. So the new sanitary system is proposed as far as possible, closest to Bay Inlet Road, and we think that is a significant upgrade to the environmental conditions. The variance is self-created, but the minimum necessary. The mitigation measures offer more protection for the wetlands than currently exist, we believe, in exchange for the proposed improvements. And then as far as the natural resource special permit standards go, are there any alternatives? The proposed improvements in nurse and variance jurisdiction are situated on the existing residence or landward. The footprint of the existing structure is not changing, and the TAM didn't point out any threat to protected natural features. Are there alternatives? The design was configured to already use the disturbed areas and push all new improvements as far as possible. The revegetation is proposed to enhance the natural features. Compatibility, again, we believe it fits with the surrounding houses. There's several houses and swimming pools in the neighborhood. And And then for environmental protection, we don't believe that there are any negative impacts. There were none outlined in the TAM, and it does not appear this project as proposed will have a negative impact. So in conclusion, we believe that the project offers mitigation, significantly more protection for the environmental sensitivity of the parcel than currently exists. The residence is the original 1960 structure, as is the sanitary that sits in the front yard adjacent to Hog Creek, 50 feet from the wetlands. The proposed improvements will increase GFA slightly, but within reasonable limits at 1/3 of the existing, keeping with the vast majority of the second-story addition out of variance jurisdiction. The low nitrogen sanitary system we situate as far from possible from Hog Creek at 168 feet of separation distance, in contrast to the 50 feet that currently exists. And the vegetated buffer of 470 square feet, and the portion of the property that's closest to wetland, plus the scenic easement, we believe are significant upgrades.
So just to be clear on the scenic easement, we're proposing that along the shoreline? And we're,
Define what you mean by shoreline.
well, we should, I would like to see revegetation along the east side of the existing clearing so we can reduce the overall clearing and increase a buffer to the wetlands. So I would say,
This is the
So
vegetation proposed on the east side. And
right,
as we discussed, we could do the scenic easement up to the.
that's what I would, yeah, that's what I want to be clear. I want to be clear what we're agreeing to tonight.
Okay.
Just
Go ahead.
just one
That's my
quick
opinion.
clarification. Obviously, you talked about the balcony, 80, that's 84 square feet. I just want to double check, because in the TAM, it also says you're doing a 80-foot first floor covered porch, but I didn't, are you putting any structure on the ground under that, or is it really just the cantilever
No, so
balcony?
this is,
There's actually, go ahead.
this balcony is like 72 square feet-ish.
Okay,
This is a proposed first floor addition over
Right.
an existing, so this is a concrete stoop that has a cover over it. And
Okay.
they're proposing to add that to the house.
okay, so that's separate from underneath the balcony. Okay, great, thank you.
And then there's a proposed covered porch here.
So nothing is happening under the balcony on the ground?
No. It's, yeah. you-
Right, yeah, it's kind of, I saw the plans,
Yeah,
yeah.
the cover page shows it really well, I think.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Tyler?
Thank you.
Good evening again, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department. So that was a really good overview of the project. I'll try not to duplicate too much of that. The parcel is located within the Harbor Protection Overlay District, as was already noted, and it's contiguous to the waters of Hog Creek. Hog Creek is a direct conduit to the waters of Gardner's Bay, and is a component of the Peconic Estuary Critical Environmental Area. The tidal wetlands on and off the property can be expected to provide all the benefits typically associated with high-quality wetlands, including the provisions of diverse, high-quality plant and wildlife habitats, nursery areas for commercially important shellfish and finfish, the removal of pollutants prior to groundwater and surface water recharge, and opportunities for scientific research, education, and aesthetic appreciation. Any increase in the development within this area has the potential to increase stormwater runoff into Hog Creek. As far as the project itself, the closest additions to the wetlands include the small 54 square foot addition, which expands the living room space inside the residence. These additions are located 67.6 feet from wetlands, but are also located on the landward side of the residence over an existing improved entry area. The majority of the additions are second-story additions located approximately 88 feet from wetlands at the closest point, with the majority of the additions located over 100 feet from wetlands. With the included upgrade to the sanitary system, the proposed additions appear to be adequately mitigated, given no changes proposed in lot coverage, and the total lot coverage will actually be decreasing slightly. The planning department had noted the location of the swimming pool and sanitary system in our assessment and raised questions whether the locations of both, if it would be more beneficial to swap them. And the applicants have taken that into consideration and done exactly that. So they swapped the location of the swimming pool for the sanitary system in order to move that sanitary as far away as they practically can, since that really is one of the largest, or if not the largest, impact on the wetlands over the long term. The proposed balcony is one of the aspects of the project that the ZBA should look closely at, given it is a seaward expansion of the improvements on the property, and could be used in the future as a place for further expand the residence. Although the balcony is small, any seaward expansion needs to be very carefully scrutinized and evaluated for its potential impacts and how the request meets the NRSP and variance standards. Additionally, the project would have increased clearing on the parcel slightly, but the applicants, as was discussed, have proposed to do some revegetation on the property, which will reduce overall clearing down to 9,322 square feet, and also include some buffer between the residents and wetlands. In addition to that, we had discussed the possibility of maybe including a scenic easement, which they seem to be amenable to. My suggestion would probably be a minimum of 30 feet. 30 feet is generally the smallest buffer that you want to maintain between wetlands in order to really provide any benefit. Obviously, more would always be better, but at a minimum, I think 30 feet would be a reasonable scenic easement from the edge of wetlands. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tyler?
I'm good.
No, good. Harry, you have anything to add? Other than they're going to need a good plumber to change the septic invert from one side of the house to the other.
Public?
Anybody in the public here to address this application? Matt, anybody on the line?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion?
Yes, in the matter of Jason and Ashley Libeth, 15 Bay Inlet Road, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-23-2-9, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second.
I concur.
Concur. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Am I in the right place?
Right. Next, we have Stephen Stone at 33 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-32-4-33.6, 36.3. Size and location is 48,016 square feet at 33 Seaside Avenue, Seaside Shores, Block 600, Lots 5 and 6, map number 1518 in Montauk. This description is to demolish an existing 445 square foot attached garage, 2 covered entries and slate patio, and to construct a 417 square foot one-story addition with 928 square feet of first and second story porches and decking, chimney, wire fencing, and an upgraded sanitary system within jurisdictions of setbacks of tidal wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 2 variances are required for this application. Variances of 48 feet and 73 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed addition 52 feet and decking 27 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit. Everything appears to be in order and the board has jurisdiction.
This is you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a photo of the property being properly posted at the foot of their driveway. Next. We may have a little glitch in some of these photos tonight, so I apologize ahead of time if we're missing a shot or two. I had trouble loading them yesterday. Here I am looking, okay, this is the drive, fine, we can do it this way. This is the driveway with their gate set back in. Next. Now I'm looking down to give you an idea. Seaside's been in front of us often. We've had a number of properties here. But you get the idea, this is a dirt road, and there is existing wetland vegetation along much of the road and in the entire area. Next. Now we're looking at the garage proposed to be removed, and in that place, and I'll take another photo of it, but in that place is about where you're going to see the septic system, the proposed septic system to be installed. Next. I've come around to the front of the house. This is where we're going to be seeing the majority of the work going on, enclosing that entryway to the right. there'll be an addition and around the side next. I think we'll see that in the next photo. Yeah, we've come over. You can see now in front of that bay window is where this proposed addition is. And as we come around to the south side, yeah, I'm looking through the shrubbery and past the oak, but back on that side of the house, again, we have some additional work to be done. Next. Again, just that side of the house, you get a feel for what it looks like. Next. Then we get to the back, there's a fence here, and this property is sizable, and a good deal of it is wetlands that runs off to the north. This is along the edge of clearing now. This fence runs along the edge of clearing. The fence is in discussion. I'm looking out at a series of hardwoods in there, large red maple. Next. Oh. I'm going to blow that up. Now I've gone around the house. There were some additional wetland photos. We'll live without them. But this is now looking back from the garage. Most of that proposed septic will be in the spot of the garage. Some of it will spill out into the area in which you're looking at. Next. Is that what we have? Okay. This is just a shot when I was on the other side of the house looking across the back of the house. You can see that the vegetation in the distance, the vegetation that surrounds any building lot on Seaside is all basically in wetlands. It's one large wetland with some platforms with houses. That's basically how it's developed. So whenever we have these lots and we look, when we get past the cleared area, almost always immediately in wetlands, and we are here. Next. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel, how are you? Joel, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Deline and board members. Joel Halsey on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning, representing the property owner, Donald Goldberg and his family, three of whom are here tonight, his wife Tracy, daughter Hannah, and son Ben. As the board should have been made aware of, the property as noticed is over noticed. The closest point of the proposed decking to the wetland is 41.4 feet, and the variance request should be 58.6 feet, but being that it's over noticed, shouldn't be a problem for tonight's hearing, as long as it's not under noticed. The application requires two variances and a natural resource special permit. The project as proposed is a minor addition to an existing house with some added decking and porch space. The plan is to remove a 396 square foot garage from the existing residence and to construct a 445 square foot addition to the residence. As stated in the technical analysis memo, the applicants are proposing a nearly one-for-one swap of the attached garage for gross floor area additions in the residence. This is a modest addition to a residence that was built in 1968. The fact that it was built in 1968 means the sanitary system is essentially a hole in the ground. To that point, a sanitary upgrade on this property seems to be a big point of mitigation, contrary to the language within the planning department's analysis memo, which states the minimal mitigation offered as part of this project. It is hard to understand how a sanitary upgrade can be minimized within this area. Furthermore, there will be drainage on the residence that does not exist today. The planning department is recommending that the fence be relocated further than it is currently proposed to be relocated. The fence as proposed encloses not even half of the property. Please note the existing clearing on this property has been unchanged since prior to the adoption of the Natural Resource Special Permit regulations. You can see the clearing line as far back as 1978 appears to be the same clearing line as it exists today. The reference within the analysis memo, the fence reference within the analysis memo has existed for decades, and although it is not visible on aerials, it has been there. It's tough to see on aerials, fences that are within vegetation. Furthermore, the fact that it does not appear on the survey from a CO issued 14 years ago also does not mean it was not there. Fences were not always picked up by surveyors, although nowadays everything typically gets picked up onto a survey. The project as proposed the project has proposed to remove all the fencing from the wetlands and to be located at least 10 feet from the wetland boundary. In addition, any fencing off the property will be relocated onto the property. All cleared areas on the wetland side of the fence will be allowed to regrow naturally. Requiring revegetation of this area would be a waste of money. Anything planted within this area will get swallowed up within 1 year if left unmaintained and most likely will get choked out and die. This happens on many of the revegetations within the town since they cannot be maintained. It should be noted that the property is pre-existing non-conforming as it pertains to clearing. The clearing exceeds the allowable by only 769 square feet. The property will be within clearing conformance by the end of next year's growing season if the areas on the wetland side of the currently proposed fence will be left unmaintained. In fact, it would probably be under the allowable clearing at that point as well. I don't know the exact number, but we only need to revegetate 769 square feet of the property to make the property conform to clearing conformance. The planning department is recommending a revegetation of approximately 2,300 square feet in order to, as stated in the analysis memo, reduce the non-conforming clearing. As stated, the property is only overcleared by 769 square feet. The planning department is also concerned with movement of wildlife regarding the fence. The fence can be installed with an 8-inch gap between the bottom of the fence and the ground to allow for the movement of wildlife. Regarding the fence, the planning department is requesting, regarding the fence, from what the planning department is requesting would significantly diminish the enjoyment the property owners have enjoyed for many years on this property. Mitigation offered should not be minimized as it has, and the relocation of the fence out of the wetlands and 10 feet from the wetland boundary offers increased mitigation that far exceeds the scope of the work proposed. Projects such as this should be encouraged within this town. By asking for mitigation above and beyond small projects such as this might have the effect of homeowners doing nothing or asking for much more than what they really want to be asking for. Doing nothing in this situation would leave a septic pit in place for many years. I've told the family multiple times over the course of the 13 months we've been working on this that I wish I had more projects to bring to the board such as this. A small house, a small addition, and on top of that, removing a portion of the house to keep the house small. If the garage hadn't been proposed to be removed from this project, the house still would be small. The analysis memo points out that the proposal includes minimal mitigation. The plan as proposed does not pose any risk or harm to the wetlands. In fact, the plan as proposed offers a greater benefit to the wetland. The project is modest and is essentially a one-for-one swap of floor area. The applicant could propose to not do the addition and finish the existing garage. It is unlikely that this would exceed the cap that would trigger a sanitary upgrade. Furthermore, nothing about this project appears to trigger a sanitary upgrade within the town. The upgrade is offered as mitigation. There does not appear to be a nexus to require the property owner to revegetate above and beyond the allowable clearing on this property. The property is legally pre-existing non-conforming as it pertains to clearing. It is only overcleared by 769 square feet. The planning department is recommending the revegetation that would be 1,831 square feet above what would be required to bring the property into clearing conformance. The mitigation for this project as proposed far exceeds what is adequate for a project of this scope. It is proposed to abandon the septic pit and upgrade with an AI sanitary system. Included in this will be drainage on the house and a relocation of the fence as proposed, and the areas outside of on the wetland side of the fence will be left undisturbed. This will in turn bring the property into clearing conformance. This is a 48,016 square foot property that will have an undisturbed area of 31,990 square feet. The property owner has a garden that has been in the same location since 1978. Prior to their ownership, you can see the garden actually on a 1978 aerial. They would like this to remain in place. The garden predates the current ownership, as I said. They have been maintaining and growing herbs and vegetables in this garden since then. This garden poses no threat to the wetlands and has been in this location since prior to the adoption of the Natural Resource Special Permit regulations. The garden is not the only part of the yard that has been deliberately planted and maintained. There are plantings around the entire perimeter of the yard, including fruit trees planted along the back of the yard. These trees will nearly all be outside of the new proposed fence line. So essentially, the trees that they have planted and maintained are pretty much going to get swallowed up by the Montauk growth. Probably, they're trees, so it'll probably take more than a year. But within a few years, the trees will still be there, but they won't be accessible. If the fence line is moved in beyond what is proposed, not only will they lose more yard space, which they use for various recreational activities, also lost will be many of the other plantings that have been maintained with a great deal of time, expense, and love over the many years. As proposed, the new fence line will segment some of the existing plantings that have been planted and maintained from the accessible yard. It is very important to the family that this house and grounds be models of environmental and ecological sustainability. Per the variance standards of the town code, I believe the board has seen my memo regarding, and I do not need to read these out. And if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
I have none.
Yeah, I'm going to wind up, thank you, Joel. I'm going to wind up having some questions for Tyler, but I'm fine now.
Thank you. Tyler?
Good evening again, Tyler Borsek for the Planning Department. So the subject property is located on the north side of Seaside Avenue in Montauk. The applicant is requesting approval to demolish the existing attached garage and covered entries and to construct a 445 square foot addition with first and second story decking and porches, new chimney, wire fencing, and to upgrade the existing sanitary system within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands. The wetlands that surround the parcel are extensive and provide many of the environmental benefits typically associated with high-quality freshwater wetlands. These benefits include the provisions of habitat for wetland-dependent wildlife and diverse plant communities, the attenuation of floodwaters, and the removal of pollutants and nutrients prior to surface and groundwater recharge. These wetlands are part of a complex watershed that eventually discharges into the southern end of Lake Montauk, which in the past has been closed to shell fishing and as a bathing beach due to elevated level of coliform bacteria that are indicators of water pollution. The soils throughout Seaside Avenue area exhibit poor drainage and is a region that is prone to chronic flooding and drainage problems. The wetlands on the premise play an important role in the retention of floodwaters, as well as the dissipation of pollutants and nutrients that can eventually enter Lake Montauk. The application proposes to demolish an existing attached garage and construct a slightly smaller first-story addition to the existing residence, along with some decking and porches and an upgraded sanitary system. The demolition of the attached garage and construction of the house additions slightly closer to wetlands affords the applicants the ability to install the proposed sanitary system in a more conforming location than would otherwise be available to them. Utilizing the existing garage locations allows for an approximately 45-foot setback to wetlands, whereas a sanitary system upgrade to the south of the existing residence would have been set back approximately 35 feet from wetlands to the south, if not closer. The applicants are proposing a nearly one-for-one swap of the attached garage for equal GFA additions to the residence. The purpose of the addition appears to be to make the interior alterations, extend and expand the existing living room, and also to add a bonus room, which is a den. The second story of the building remains largely unchanged, aside from stairs to the new roof deck above the first story. Second story decking represents the closest structure to the wetlands proposed in the project, but is located within the footprint of the existing first story and is no closer to wetlands than the existing residence. Swapping the detached garage for additions to the residence certainly seems like a reasonable request. The addition of some decking and covered decking may also be reasonable inclusions in the project, but require careful scrutiny by the board given how close to wetlands the decking will be constructed and an increase in impermeable surfaces. The lot coverage is proposed to increase by 220 square feet. Total lot coverage is similarly proposed to increase by 128 square feet. And clearing is proposed to remain the same as the existing non-conforming 16,798 square feet, where 16,026 square feet is the maximum allowable. Overall, the project appears to be proposing minor increases over the existing structures on a very constrained property. An aspect of the project that will require even closer scrutiny is the removal of the existing fencing, which is located along and partially within portions of the wetland, and to construct a new wire fence with a minimum setback of 10 feet to wetlands. Given that the fencing will be the closest structure to wetlands, the board may want to look closely at the proposed fencing and also how it can be best be utilized along with other mitigation measures. Allowing a fence within the clearing limits and meeting a better setback may be appropriate as long as it is coupled with a revegetation, especially at the northern and southern extents of clearing, in order to reestablish a more robust buffer to wetlands, and then utilizing the fencing to protect that vegetation as it establishes itself and continues to fill in and grow. The fencing as proposed in such close proximity to wetlands and along a large border of the wetlands acts as an impediment to the movement of wildlife and should be relocated to the maximum setback practical. Possibly shifting the fence further south at the northern side of the clearing limits, more in line with the 28-foot contour line, and establishing a vegetative buffer north of that would help to further mitigate the project, decrease runoff entering the vulnerable wetlands, allow more movement of wildlife in and around the wetlands, and it will allow the applicant the benefit of the fencing still. At the southern extent of clearing, pulling the fencing back slightly, again, closer to the 28-foot contour line, would further increase setbacks and help to further reduce the non-conforming clearing on the property. This could help to reduce the non-conforming clearing on the property by both eliminating clearing within wetlands, increasing the setbacks of the closest clearing, and also reducing overall clearing by approximately 2,300 square feet. In addition, fencing in such close proximity to the wetlands creates an impediment to the movement of wildlife, especially on a property which is nearly surrounded by wetlands, and with fencing proposed so close to the entire perimeter of those wetlands. Alternative locations would better meet the NRSP and variance standards and would create less of that movement impediment. Ultimately, fencing that is further from wetlands will create less of an impediment and is better candidate for the variance standards. Finally, the sanitary system is proposed to be located in the approximate area where the existing garage is located. This appears to be the most conforming location currently available on the property and should provide a reasonable mitigation for the nominal increase in the gross floor area of the residence. The sanitary system appears to consist of an IA treatment tank with pump basin and shallow distribution trenches. The applicants have included an engineer's report as to the reasoning for using shallow trenches, and which is ultimately to avoid needing to excavate deep to hit clean sand, which would require a significant amount of disturbance. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
A lot of what is being discussed and was discussed by Joel, and we're going to ask questions about, is the fence, obviously. Moving the fence. There's a proposal to move it in an irregular fashion from the existing fence, which at this point is basically the line of clearing is basically the line between the wetlands and the part on the parcel, right? It
For the most part.
is when you're there. And beyond that, it falls right off into the wetlands. So bringing it back, and then the couple of proposals made by Joel. One was the location of the fence. What's your take on that? And number two is a suggestion that rather than them planting to allow the wetlands to move into that, your proposed revegetation plan would be at variance with that suggestion, I'm imagining. So your comment on that is going to be important for us here, I think, to understand exactly what we're going to do about having that fence moved.
Our recommendation is always to have vegetation planted rather than to just let things come back naturally. Once you just let things go and don't mow it anymore, there's always that chance that you're going to allow invasives to come in. There's always a chance of that regardless, but getting native vegetation in there gives the best chance for invasives to not have the chance to get that foothold that they might normally have with just the cessation of mowing. So that's ultimately where we would stand on, is that we feel that a revegetation is the minimal in that situation, that simply a cessation of mowing
So
leads to a higher likelihood of invasives.
the location of the fence too, that they proposed to move in, it's irregular, so it's hard to know exactly how much that is. But you reviewed that? Have you had a chance to see that in his new proposal?
I don't remember seeing the new location. I'd have to.
New proposal?
Okay,
maybe.
No, there's not a new one.
Maybe it's verbalized.
Okay, the one that was on the original survey. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, okay.
It's essentially 10 foot along the entire edge of wetlands, which is what we feel and recommended that they pull it
Basically
inside
that,
from.
yeah. So I'm saying your reaction to that, though, is that you're recommending it to come further than the 10 foot along
Yes.
the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
We suggested roughly along the 28-foot contour line if you want a point of reference on the survey. That's our suggestion.
Okay, thanks.
I feel like part of what I'm seeing in the revised, part of it looks like it's at the 28-foot portion of it at the 28-foot
The
contour
northern
line.
extent and the southern extent, from what I remember, I'll just off the top of my head, is
I have three, I'm hoping I'm looking at the right, I have three different surveys here, so.
Yeah, what is the latest survey? Is that March
13th?
Right, 2024?
Yeah, seems to be.
Okay,
And that
that's
shows the
right.
10 foot, that shows the 10
Right,
foot
that's what I'm
fence
looking
there.
at.
March
Part of it's at the, here's the 28 foot,
28.
so
Yeah.
part of it is on the 28,
Yeah,
right? Part of it. Okay, I'm looking at the right one. Thank you.
Oversight.
That's right, yeah, that's what I'm looking
One doesn't.
Yeah, so the closest points where the wetlands are closest to or the fencing is closest to wetlands is that northern and southern side of the house, which is where we feel that they should be brought up and down.
Right.
I'll find it.
Any other questions?
I'm fine.
Anybody in the public would like to address this application? Matt, anybody online?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Jay, want to speak? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Ben. I'm Donald and Tracy's son. Thank you for hearing our...
What's your last name?
Ben Goldberg, Benjamin Goldberg.
You swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Hi, board members. Thank you for hearing our application today and considering our application. I just wanted to add on a few words to what Joel already, I think, did a really great job at explaining for us, and a few more things about our family. We fully understand the concerns around the natural environment. We really do want to improve our property and do this construction in a way that is as beneficial and improves the natural environment as much as possible. And that said, some of our concerns around moving the fence line in significantly, firstly, losing that vegetable garden that we have spent a lot of years tending to. It's already been there. It was already there when we purchased the property, and we do love gardening and have put in a lot of time and effort into plantings around the entire property. The other major concern that that hasn't been voiced yet is actually about our father. The reason why he couldn't be here tonight is his health, and he's immunocompromised. Given a variety of health conditions, one being an organ transplant a little over a decade ago. And he also has an autoimmune condition, and he, though, loves this property and would love to enjoy it as much as possible. He couldn't be here tonight because of those health concerns, and we really think that keeping the fence preserving and maintaining the original clearing we were very happy to revegetate the property. We would love to see more native plantings on our property, both within and beyond the fence line. But why we would like to see the fence remain as far from the house as possible is really to keep ticks out of the yard as far as possible. We believe that it is a deer fence at 8 feet in height. It was put there we believe it was put there to, keep, deer out of the property. And we'd like to, make sure that, that ticks don't get into the property as much as possible.
Just with all due respect, I'm not sure what significance a fence does in protecting the property from ticks. So I'm not sure if there's anything that is substantial enough for us to make a decision to that effect, especially if there would be a precedent. We've had these we've had these requests before, and it's hard to draw that line. Joel, you want to try to adjust this because
Joel Halsey again. Well, with regard to the ticks, although the fence might not stop ticks because obviously it's a fence and a tick is a little small creature that can get in, the deer are a vector for ticks, and when they're in the yard, the ticks will eventually drop off a deer into the yard. Beyond that, you also have the fence. You can now delineate where your tall grasses are going to be, and by staying out of the tall grasses, the ticks usually don't. They will be in. They'll be everywhere, wherever, but they're less likely to be in a short grass. So now, if you're delineating a separation between tall grass or unmaintained area with a mowed lawn, or in their case, if you saw their property is well maintained, but in a natural state. They do have a lawn. They do mow it. And they do have plants that they've planted throughout the yard that they enjoy. But if you can maintain that lawn, it's a little bit safer to walk around and enjoy your yard when you have a lower grasses than just letting the lawn grow or letting the area grow. So although, yes, the deer fence won't stop the ticks, but it will.
But just understand what you're asking for from our point of view,
Not
right?
really.
You're asking for the nexus to approve the fence is to protect
I'm not
the
asking
property
really for
from
an approval.
ticks,
I mean,
and
the fence has
that's
been there.
that's a stretch.
We're actually using, the fence is actually mitigation. The fence has been there. We are actually moving the fence. So it's not really a nexus for an approval. It's more of a mitigation on our part. We're moving the fence out of a wetland, and we're allowing, and there's only, it was mentioned tonight that, to allow the wetland to revegetate, there's only one small, it's probably less than 15 square feet of the wetland that's got fence, has a fence on it. Other than that, the fence is just within, the property. It's not really within the wetland as stated. Like I said, just a small area. So I'm not asking for a nexus. I mean, there was actually almost no nexus for us. We'd have to try to prove that it was legally there, but that's almost impossible to prove, that the fence has been there since, whenever. They have maintained the fence, but it's been there since, who knows how long it's been there. Obviously, the property owner built the garden there. He probably built the fence around his property when it was originally, back in 1980, 1978, 1987. It's going to be impossible to tell. But we've all seen surveys that from back in the day that don't have all the structures that were on the property. I mean, patios don't show up on surveys, fences don't show up on surveys. So I'm not really asking for permission. I mean, yes, we are asking for permission for the fence, but we're actually asking for permission to move the fence further from the wetland. I'd like to address kind of the revegetated buffer that the planning department is recommending, and how planting vegetation is going to put a foothold in. It's going to keep out the invasive species. Unfortunately, I've been to many properties since I left the town, having people, telling people, having to revegetate their property, and seeing some of these revegetations 15 years down the line, and people saying, I revegetated this. And then you look at it 15 years later, whatever they put in there is all spindly or dead, and everything else is is invasive, or, it's going to grow back. And if you leave it unmaintained, if we were allowed to do revegetation plans in this town and maintain those revegetation plans, you're planting a bayberry 5 foot on center in staggered rows. So you've got all this space in between. You're putting down leaf mulch. What's going to grow up in there? You've got a lot of space in there. It's the weeds are taking over, and there's a revegetation plan is not going to prevent that. In this situation, in most situations in Montauk, and I bet you if you leave this unmaintained for 2 years, whatever grows there is going to be taller than anything you put in there. So it's.
So what are you? I'm not sure what you're
Our
saying.
plan was
I'm not sure. Is there a difference between then revegetation and naturalization?
No, we want to let it naturalize. We don't want to have to spend the money on buying 50 bayberry plants that we're going to plant that are just going to disappear in 2 years. So we'd like to see it just naturalize over the course of. It's going to naturalize over the course of a year in Montauk. So that's pretty much what the plan is, and we'd like to see it that way.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Joel,
Yes.
could you just, unless I'm missing it on the survey, you talked about the vegetable garden and the benefit to the applicant. Can you tell me where it is? Is it?
Here.
If you could scroll down to the insert.
I don't see it.
It's right there. That's it right
There.
there.
Oh, it's down. Oh, okay.
In that clearing right there. There it is right there. See the fencing around it?
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a different survey. No, but it's not up. I was getting confused because Tyler was also talking about moving the northern part of the fence back. So that's not where anything's in play.
Sorry, excuse me.
I'm just, again, I'm listening to the planning board talking about recommending having the fence move back to the 28-foot contour line. But to do that,
This is the 20.
I'm looking at the one up at the top. That's why. Okay.
So this is it right here.
Right. There's two. I'm looking at.
So And, you know, I mean, when you think about it.
I'm looking at the one
it's
up
not
here.
much space.
But it goes all the way
Right,
around.
I know, okay.
Yeah.
This is the proposed fence now. 28 foot, you know, it's another, you know, it's a 1 inch equals 30 scale, so we're looking at like 12 feet maybe by, you know, at the widest point.
Right.
It's not much, but it is, you know, their yard is.
I know, just wanted to understand what was in the way differently. For some reason, I was looking at the survey that didn't show the veg garden on here. Thank you.
And again, they've maintained this property, they've left it undisturbed, pretty much in its natural state since they bought it, and it's been in that state since 1978, at least that's as far back as I can see the aerials on this property. And it's only overcleared by 769 square feet.
Thank you.
It's on
Anybody
here,
have
but
any
it's not on
questions?
here.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
Oh, I was looking up
Make a
here.
motion.
Yes, just give me a minute. Get it back out here.
Yes.
Then in the application, of Stephen Stone, 33 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-32-4-36.3. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and the record at this time.
Second. Concur.
Tinker.
Concur. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
Joe.
you. Like,
All right, we have administrative applications, two of them this evening. One at 10 Homestead Lane LLC at 10 Homestead Lane, Springs, Suffolk Tax Max number 324-5-28. That's to allow an as-built deck to remain 11.7 feet from the side yard property line where 15 feet is required. And we have Ryan with us now.
Good evening, Board. Ryan Schlickting from the Planning Department. So this is an application.
You have to be sworn in.
Do I for work session?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Just
a test, right? So this is an application for an as-built deck to the southwest of the property. It was built according to a building permit granted in September of 2022. It was granted the 11.7 lot line setback. They went to go get a CO, which was brought back to us for the variance. The variance for the 3.4 feet would be 22%, which is why we do think this is a good candidate for a variance without a hearing.
And to clarify, the permit was granted on this setback, is that correct?
So 11.7 was approved.
That was approved by the building department, yes.
This is all they're doing? What is?
Yeah, that's all they came in for.
I'm okay with this moving forward.
Does it have to, it can go administratively?
Yes,
Doesn't have
that's
to
it.
be
This
a
is
variance.
administrative.
Okay, good. Are we good with this?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Everybody okay? In the matter of 10 Homestead Lane LLC, 10 Homestead Lane, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-24-5-28, I make a motion that the application go administratively.
Concur. Oh,
I concur.
concur.
Concur, thank you.
Just a matter of note, it's a variance without a hearing,
Oh, it is
That's what
right.
I was,
not an
Yeah.
admin.
okay. So redo the,
Redo the motion.
Edit the motion.
Instead of,
second the I second that, no, stop it. Okay, so in the matter of 10 Homestead Lane LLC, 10 Homestead Lane, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-24-5-28, I make a motion to have the application go with a variance without a hearing.
Okay,
so we have a second?
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you.
I changed to.
Next, we have Frankel at 25 Wellers Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-152-2-15.21, and it's to construct a 600-square-foot detached garage, a 400-square-foot second-floor extension, a 170-square-foot shed, new decking on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation.
All right, so this is an application like Mr. Chairman just said, for a detached garage that's 600 square feet. There's a second floor extension that's going to be 400 square feet, and then a deck to the west, or excuse me, a shed to the west that's going to be 170 square feet, all within beach vegetation. The clearing is increasing slightly from 10,565 to 11,825 square feet. This is primarily happening on the east side of the property where the detached garage is going to be proposed. The planning department doesn't see this area of clearing as any significant vegetation, which is why we do believe that it is a candidate to go administratively. And any questions from the board, I am happy to answer.
Any questions?
Well, it's a fair amount of work. I mean, so what are we getting? What is the benefit to the town to allow this without a hearing?
Just compared to the other properties in the area, the clearing isn't increasing by that much, as well as the total lot coverage. It's going from around 5,000 to a little over 7,000 square feet. And we just do think it is keeping in kind with the area.
No, this is just beach vegetation. There's no wetlands.
There's no wetlands in the area. There's no setbacks that are needed. It's just beach vegetation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you just say again, what is the total coverage of the lot now relative to what's allowed?
Total coverage right now is 5,113 square feet, and it's increasing to 7,046 square feet.
Coverage, okay. And
Total coverage.
total coverage, right. And then clearing right now is what compared to?
Clearing is 10,500 square feet and is increasing to 11,800. So around a $1,200 or
I just want to
square foot increase, sorry.
Anybody have any issues with it? Going administrative? I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, can we have a motion?
Yes, please, thank you. In the matter of Frankel, 25 Whalers Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map, 300-152-2-15.21, make a motion to allow this application to go administrative only.
Second.
I concur.
Concur.
Okay, I concur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan. I'm to mention, council, tonight, a potential secret determination that we have to make next week. And that is for the inlet seafood. I believe they're coming for us for an admin. Anyway, just so you're aware, you're going to see some a submittal from Brian today. Not today, this week. So just be aware that we're going to need to make a determination next week.
Yeah, this was raised at pre-meeting. I actually think, and I don't know if Tyler knows for sure, I think the board may have already voted that you were okay that it proceeds administratively, but because it's an unlisted action, while, you know, the notice is out on the admin portion of it, Brian is going to bring the secra to the board. The applicant submitted their part 1 already, so that's in the file. So he is preparing the part 2 and the part 3. And Roy kindly remembered to just advise the board of this. So to keep an eye out, to state it publicly, because it would just be helpful for Brian if we do it before the end of the year, just in terms of the timing of the admin. And then also I made a note,
We have my favorite name coming up again.
Go ahead.
My wife really likes
So,
LLC.
right, so that one, I believe will be on next meeting for the admin consideration, but just to give the board the heads up, he will then also be doing the secra at a later meeting. So we're going to start trying to really keep up with the unlisted actions when they're admin, and the applicant has already submitted a part 1 on that one as well.
Anybody remembers, that's the Fred Riney.
Right. And right, he will explain that all next week, but there was an extensive review of that at the time of the original approval, which I think was 5 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We have draft minutes of December 3rd.
Yes, I reviewed the minutes. They appear to be correct. I'd like to make a motion for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals to approve the minutes for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024.
A second?
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Vice Chair?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the zoning board of appeals on December 10th at 8:28 PM.
Second.
I'll concur.
Concur.